Matt, you ready to get into this a little bit?
Yeah.
We got some more election stuff to get into, and um, we could maybe do more Schumer stuff. Schumer has been making the rounds over the past couple of weeks as he is starting to come to terms with what exactly cost the Democrats the election. And before we get to this Teamster stuff, Matt, I did want to play this one because it was making the rounds, and it's something else. So this is Chuck Schumer on Meet the Press talking about what his lessons are from the 2024 election.
So we did a lot of good things, but all too often, Kristen, we talked about the mechanics of the legislation and the details of the legislation, and we really didn't show the kind of empathy and concern to average, or show enough of it to average working families who didn't realize how much we had done.
Now, so basically, the problem with the Democrats is that they were too smart and great at their job, and they're just so dedicated that they get into the weeds and they're just not able to express their true empathy and feelings towards the American working class. And I want you to hold that in your heads as we get into some of the stuff with the Teamsters in a second. But I'm curious if you have anything you want to note there, Matt.
I don't even know what he means when he says we were too focused on the process, whatever what does he even mean by that?
I
Are you
mean,
talking about the parliamentarian, why you can't do student loan debt? Like,
I mean, yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I mean, it's because their entire pitch people was the economy is actually doing super great, and the Biden administration is, working tirelessly to achieve all these massive wins for you. And instead of saying like, maybe we're not doing enough, or achieving the victories that we should be achieving with our position in government. No, no, no. That's definitely not the lesson here. It's that yeah, we're just not we're not portraying or presenting this information to those stupid, distracted, slop eating Americans.
the empathy thing is so funny because he's like, we didn't show empathy, and then he even that, which is such a like a cope like
Yeah,
thing. He even mitigates that, say, well, we showed some, but we didn't show enough empathy.
yeah, that's
Like,
great. I mean, and I tweeted this out, and there's a lot of other Schumer gems from the winter break over this. But basically, the Democratic Party has been uh, trying to workshop a way to say, how can we appear to be reflective about this historic loss that we just experienced, while changing absolutely nothing about our politics or policies.
he has to go. And there needs to be a greater culture of people resigning after fucking failure in this country.
It's
Because,
genuinely crazy that they won't.
like, it's nuts. Chuck Schumer was doing this a decade ago, almost a decade ago, after Trump won the first goddamn time. Or actually, before Trump won the first time, he was going on shows, and we played this even after the election, saying, oh, yeah, all of that economic distress in the Rust Belt states, that's actually going to give us the Senate in 2016. It's not
Mhm,
that's going to help Trump win. It's going to help Hillary win and us win the Senate. And
mhm,
it didn't. He should have resigned then.
mhm.
Like, th- and a whole, and he wasn't a spring chicken when that happened either. Like, it is nuts, and it is corruption. Like, I genuinely don't think it's anything other than they are very important to powerful people policy planks that people like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are the stewards of. And until that, like, somebody like, oh, I don't know, APAC, what's his name? The new leader of the representatives, Hakeem Jeffries. Until you can find a pair of hands that you can trust with this stuff, these guys aren't leaving power.
Yeah,
And it's crazy.
yeah. No, no. I mean, I think that's exactly it because the role of a senator in the Democratic Party is to be able to maybe at times talk a certain talk, but the most important thing is walking the walk. And let's get into this Teamsters thing here because I think it actually shows some pretty shocking realities about the modern Democratic Party. Look, let's put a pin in the conversation about the RNC and all of that, and Sean O'Brien. We've talked about that on this program. I want people to pay attention to what's being revealed in this conversation. There's one that has been making the rounds on Twitter and social media that a lot of people have seen. There's one regarding Chuck Schumer, who we just heard from a second ago, that I think should be getting a lot more attention. So in this clip, this is Sean O'Brien, yes, on the Tucker Carlson show, talking about his relationship with the Democratic Party, his relationship with the Republican Party, and his decision to speak at the RNC, which he says, if you give me an opportunity to speak to any large crowd, particularly a national crowd, about what the Teamsters are, what we're up against, and what our work is about, I'm going to take it, right? Which I get. In this clip here, he's talking about how Chuck Schumer had called him earlier in the year and asked for $500,000 for his Senate reelection in the most recent cycle, and then started to change his tune regarding the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, and
Well, because they don't like confrontation. They don't want to hear the truth. When he said,
this is about Chuck Schumer.
We fixed your pensions, that gave me an opportunity to say, you're the same guy in the same party that 40 years ago embraced, endorsed, and signed off on deregulation in the trucking industry, which we lost 400,000 jobs in 1980. Ted Kennedy put the bill forward. Joe Biden signed off on it as a senator or as a representative. And
no, senator.
Yeah, senator, right? So they said, we fixed your pension. And I said, yeah, you did fix a pension. And I use this scenario all the time. I'm like, I played street hockey in my neighborhood, 1980. I broke my mother's window. For 40 years, she's asked me to fix her window. And I finally fix it 40 years later. Should I look for accolades for a problem that I helped create?
Yeah.
And so we went back and forth. It even got to a point, he showed up at our building prior to the election. And we had a bipartisan meeting in the hallway of the IBT, and it was attended by a lot of Republican senators, a lot of Republican congressmen. Because look, our goal is to work across the aisle to solve problems.
Yeah.
He walks in with his, the Capitol Police, who do a great job, walks in late, and he sticks his crooked finger in my face, and he says, "I fixed your pensions." I said, "You should have. You broke them." And we get into it pretty hard. And, he starts like yelling at me. I go, "Buddy, listen, there's only one guy that can yell at me. We buried him 12 years ago. I go, you want to get into this right here, right now? We'll get into it.
You're talking about your dad.
Yeah, I'm talking about my dad, right? And so Schumer's like, we fixed your pension. I'm like, yeah? I'm going to name the things you haven't done for us. When our members were on strike at the rail, you didn't support us. You didn't put a letter of support in there. When we were fighting with UPS in the middle of the street, you wouldn't sign off on a support letter. When we took on Amazon, which we're taking on now, you wouldn't support our efforts in Amazon. I said, you want me to keep going? Because you can tell me what you've done, the one thing you've done for me and my union and my members, but I'm going to tell you all the things you haven't done for us. And then, he's like, well, I really want this relationship. I'm like, we're done.
So, I mean, look, there's a lot to react to there. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, the thing is we said this at the time. His job is not about the Democratic Party. His job is representing his members. And probably he had some insight last summer of the kind that Democrats had, which is that they were fucking losers, that they are a ship that hit a goddamn iceberg. And the iceberg was exactly what he said with all those different things. And you can say, well, Mr. O'Brien, the Republicans aren't exactly pro-regulation either. That doesn't fucking matter. You're supposed to be the ones that want a monogamous relationship with those unions. Mm-hmm. You fucked it up. And of course, like that it's wild, the inability to understand like just categories of different political action, right? Like a labor union versus a political party. Like these are different things. And like one of them fucked it up because it's true. Like Teamsters, I mean, historically they supported Nixon. Like it's one of the more heterodox unions in this country, right? But they had been Democrats recently, and and Democrats just simply fucked it up with all this stuff that he cited.
I mean, I thought this clip was really telling for many reasons, and as you could probably tell, like it could have gone longer, and there was a lot beforehand that I could have wanted to include. We have more clips from it coming. Um, but on the Schumer thing, I think that there's a couple things that are really notable. Right, one was just how quickly and vindictive the relationship between the Democratic Party and the Teamsters got the second that Sean O'Brien decided to speak at the RNC. Right, remember Sean O'Brien did not endorse Donald Trump. And as we've seen, more and more information that we're getting, it seems not only did they think that the Republicans probably were going to win the election, but also internally that there was a lot of support for the Republican Party amongst Teamsters members. Now, is that a good thing? I don't think so, right? But how is the Teamsters supposed to deal with that? That's a long-term project of doing kind of political education, all this kind of work that you're supposed to do within an organization. I think Dustin Guasella wrote a really great, who's a Teamsters member, wrote a really great piece in Jacobin about it that I highly suggest people read. Anyways, there's a part of that that's almost like beyond the pale of what we're talking about here. What is the relationship of the Democratic Party and unions here? And you could see very, very clearly the transactional way that Chuck Schumer thinks about it when he says, I fixed your pensions, I fixed your pensions. By the way, they had to deal with pensions across the board because things had gotten so fucked up because the speculation class in this country that the Democratic Party is attached at the hip to now fuck shit up for the entire country, right? Fuck shit up for the entire country. And that's why I think Sean O'Brien is right to say, hey, what are you talking about? It's been 40 years of garbage that y'all have been feeding us, right? And it's time for you to take that seriously. And then if it is a transactional relationship, if it is just a transactional relationship, how Chuck Schumer is making it sound, well, then why is it a sin for them to say, hey, maybe we can get a better deal with these guys, right? Right? That is if that's how you treat them. Now we'll get into the contempt and the arrogance of the Democratic Party regarding that a bit later. But I think that Schumer clip I think was a very interesting one because he noted because this pension thing has been the kind of course that we've gotten from most Democratic Party defenders when it comes to whether or not unions should be frustrated with the Democratic Party.
And then there's a rush in the discourse by Vox writers to say, well, there's no pleasing these people.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. And and I think that's why that clip with Sean O'Brien is so great. It's like, hey, remember the railroads? Like these are like living memory things. And here's the huge labor fights that are in front of us. And I'm sorry, if you can't imagine why somebody who's the leader of the Teamsters might be trying to think strategically about how to bolster and gain as much support for a fight against Jeff Bezos and Amazon, you just cannot. You lack the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Now, the conversation about the Republican Party and their willingness to follow through on anything, I think is a very valid one. I think that there's no future of that. But what is abundantly clear is that there is more value in maybe trying to get crumbs from the people in power than to get nothing from the people out of power. And this is it. It's just like you could say if you agree or disagree with a kind of transactional relationship like that, right? But that is the tactic that Sean O'Brien has decided to take. And remember, just I want to say this one last thing. Sorry, Matt. I just say this every fucking time the Teamsters endorsement process goes out. They did not endorse the Republicans. It seemed internally like a significant amount of Teamsters wanted them to endorse the Republicans, and they endorsed nobody, which was a huge fucking gift to Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party, one that they frankly didn't deserve, as we'll get into in a second when it comes to her relationship with that union.
But just because they want, like, they recognize that the same issue too, which is like, I don't think Sean O'Brien might be more hopeful about working with Republicans than you or I, but I doubt he's super optimistic about it. But yeah, like, yeah, let's move on
I mean, look,
to
I mean,
Harris.
Sean O'Brien, there's like probably, yeah, the fact of the matter is that the Democratic Party the conversations that they're having privately and he's now giving us a little window into, yeah, he's probably being selective about what he's telling us. But the fact of the matter is, like, hearing a senator saying, I did your pensions, you better show up for me, you better do this kind of thing for me, is the exact wrong way that the Democratic Party should be engaging with labor leaders, particularly at a time when we see election after election after election after election, they continue to lose the support of those people. So what position does that put the leadership of those unions in with their own membership, right? And they, soon have to decide: should I be loyal to this political party, or should I be, more engaged with my membership? It's a tough position to be.
Or should I adopt the Democratic Party's disdain towards people that has got them so fucking far?